Woo! I'm going to ring the bell. Ding, ding, baby. Absolutely. The Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Savzu, the rated R radio star, ready to bring it on for our August live Q&A hangout. And of course, unfortunately, using Google Hangouts. Now, there's a cup of water next to me here. Hopefully I don't knock this down as I roll around, but I won't roll around too much. Unfortunately, if you listen to actually yesterday's Star Wars update that came out that Robin and I did, we have just the best time doing that. You might have heard that I had some camera trouble. Well, camera trouble is solved. Actually ended up being a USB port and not one of the cameras, but I was in a rush yesterday, so whatever. Anyway, you never really see the video of the Star Wars update as it is. So, but regardless, you're seeing video now, and of course, the video is available in the show notes if you are listening to when you end up listening to the audio version of this, which gets released just hours after we actually do this whole thing. But otherwise, we are running it live, and wow, some pretty shocking stuff came out. Well, I guess maybe it was yesterday. Yeah, I think based upon the timestamp, it was actually yesterday that it was announced. And feel free. I have a couple of like preloaded questions set. Feel free to ask questions. Those that are watching on YouTube, feel free to ask questions within the YouTube chat. You can do that, and I will. I keep an eye on that, and I can read from it. But anyway, I was really shocked to hear that Apple. Of course, every one of these tech giants is starting their own little media companies, right? More or less. Microsoft's doing odd things, but bottom line, Apple, Google has, of course, YouTube, or should I say Alphabet/Google has YouTube. Apple is trying to do their own stuff with Apple TV, and they've been dropping the ball right and left as far as that goes. They have not been doing well at all. But that said, I am very intrigued. They just announced that they are going to do the foundation. Isaac Asimov's foundation. There's so much. This is such a tough subject. All I know is, I don't know if they're doing the Foundation trilogy, which is what most people think about when they think about Foundation, which is which got written later, but prelude to Foundation, and then the actual book Foundation, and then I guess the second Foundation. I think that's the third part of the Foundation trilogy. But there's so many Foundation books, and also, of course, later on in life, Isaac Asimov would connect the Foundation trilogy, the robot, the iRobot series, the robot stories, and he would actually write three, I think it was three, Galactic Empire books, which is what the Foundation trilogy is kind of a sequel to as far as existence, is the Galactic Empire. He would end up connecting most of his stories, and really you'd only end up with maybe like Nemesis and I think the gods themselves that would sort of sit on their own as being, stories that aren't within, even though Nemesis, I think there's some argument that Nemesis could have been part of the Foundation series. But anyway, the Foundation series is just, technically it's very massive. And Apple is not they are going to produce the series. It's probably going to be on their little TV network, whatever the fuck that is. It's going to be 10 episodes so far. I'm certainly they could do a whole hell of a lot more. A lot of people are expecting this to be Game of Thrones-esque or Battlestar Galactica-esque. Unfortunately, the new bullshit Battlestar Galactica, whatever. I'll be curious to see how this shapes up. I'm certainly going to watch it. I have actually theorized for years, and I've talked about this on Sovryn Tech Prime episodes, that the reason the Foundation series from Asimov wasn't getting made was because Hollywood, whoever held the rights to it, Hollywood was waiting for when they were just making no money whatsoever, because making the Foundation series is guaranteed money for a lot of reasons. One is, of course, a lot of Star Wars, arguably, at least visually, is based off of, and in name as well, the Galactic Empire and all that stuff, was based off of the Foundation series. Okay. So you've got that. There's visual cues that you could run with that are very exciting visual cues. Obviously, they've worked well for Star Wars. But I've always felt that that's the deal, is that, as soon as Hollywood feels like it's run out of money or it's just completely run out of remakes and whatever else that it can do, then they would pull out a big gun, proverbially, like the Foundation series. But Apple, I think it's the same reasons, is that Apple's TV service is not taking off well at all. It's not doing well at all, but they have to do it because it's not like they don't really have any innovative products to come out. And art is that thing that you can consistently, constantly, always scale, like it just goes on to infinity, really, with art. That's, of course, the basis of the human condition. But regardless of that, yeah, I don't know what Apple paid for this. I'd be curious to hear the story of how all that came together. But they are going to make the Foundation series. And obviously this is going to take on Amazon, because Amazon is doing, they're redoing Lord of the Rings there, which is, comparable in scope and scale and size to the Foundation, series. And then you have, they're doing the Culture series, which we've talked about. That actually, I think, has very important implications within the tech world, and within society in general. I don't think that's just an entertainment play. There's something being done there. So this is interesting. I was absolutely shocked. Like, I would not have seen this coming. But again, same reasons why I thought Hollywood would do it, is because if you needed some guaranteed money, you do the Foundation series. And I think that's what Apple's thinking is, okay, we need to level up. We need to get this service, people taking it seriously. And then you got Disney in 2019 coming out, they're going to have their own streaming service, which is going to have Star Wars at the forefront. Well, how do you take on Star Wars? Let me tell you how you do that. And if you're not, if you're not Les Moonves at CBS and you don't own Star Trek, how do you do it? Well, you do it by going with the Foundation trilogy or the Foundation series, because it has such, name cachet, and it has such history, and it's so well, it's so widely regarded and well revered. I mean, it's a very, very, very simple thing to do, but I gotta imagine they paid out of their, I mean, they have, Apple's got the money, but I mean, they had to have paid out of their asses for that. Let's see. Somebody says in the YouTube chat, everybody needs original content. Yeah, that's very true. And in fact, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, I'm glad when some books get turned into TV series. I don't know, it'll be curious to see how much Apple sticks to the script, if you know what I mean, as far as like what the Foundation novels would say. But I wish we'd get some original properties again in TV and in and in theaters. Like, I really, really wish we'd get some original properties. I mean, what the fuck? There's no way that The Matrix was like the last great idea. I thought Jupiter Ascending was fucking awesome, which of course made by the same people, but like there's no way that like the last great franchises have been made. It's just not possible. But maybe, where these stories have to go are directions that Hollywood refuses to go, like that they don't want to take things down that road, and make things like exciting in that way. Because if you want to do original stuff, well, you got to get away from, because imagine what it takes to have a very original story today. Just about everything's really a cop show at the end of the day, even movies, everything. And most of it actually does, of course, appeal to some kind of government authority of some kind, but you'd have to get away from that. Like really, you'd have to look in a different direction, and it couldn't be a cop show. I mean, even Star Trek arguably is a cop show. In fact, I love the quote from Star Trek: The Next Generation, the episode with Moriarty, when he comes back and like he gets out of the holodeck and everything. And he says he sees a Starfleet security come up. He's like, "Oh, the police! I'd recognize them in any century." And like, he's effectively saying Starfleet's the police, and it's not an unfair assessment to make. And I mean, it's really Star Trek almost making fun of itself at that moment. Star Trek's still great, don't mistake me. But I think that's anyway. The point being is that you'd have to. There's a lot of money that gets injected into Hollywood and that gets injected into a lot of these, various media production companies that literally comes from the government, be it the military giving you discounts or letting them use their equipment or something like that. I mean, this is absolutely legitimate. We talked about this years ago on the show on Sovryn Tech, how Top Gun 2 never got made because the military refused to work with Hollywood on it, because they said that the first Top Gun sexualized the military and they weren't interested. Okay, so the military holds a lot of sway. The government genuinely holds a lot of sway over entertainment. One could argue that, the entire, effectively the Red Scare in Hollywood, during McCarthyism and, in the 50s and so on, that all of I mean, yes, were there communists in Hollywood? Absolutely there were. Of course there were. There still are. Okay. but that whole, dog and pony show that was done where, they're putting all of these different movie producers and studios, effectively, the government's putting them on trial. That was really the government like saying, no, you don't get to build your little Tinseltown. We're taking it, we're taking it over, and we're still ultimately in control. Because at the time, this is a very, and there's some people who use this towards the negative. I don't know that I'd necessarily say it's a negative. Okay. At the time, understand that like the guys that moved out west, all right, from New York, and were a lot of them Jews? Yes. Okay. They moved out west and they bring water to the desert effectively. Okay. And in the shape of Paramount Pictures, MGM, and so on. Okay. All the classic movie studios. These movie studios and the movies they were making were, in a very real sense, these guys creating their own reality. They very much were helping shape the world. I mean, so many concepts that we have today that you don't think have anything to do with entertainment. The American dream, man's house is his castle. There's a million of these kind of phrases that we have that are complete marketing horseshit. Okay. That are either directly from like ads from way back when, from almost 100 years ago, to stuff that was just, schlepped out to everybody in the movies. Okay. But they were really creating their own reality. The movie business was so powerful, at the time that, I'm not shocked the government needed to move in because, if you put on the screen, like if anybody ever really, and this is why I have a hard time believing that Amazon's going to show off or going to like really mention or even hint at kind of the anarchism that exists within the Culture series from Ian M. Banks when they finally make that TV series. Okay. If you put on display on, in 2,000 theaters around the country, if you showed off like a genuine anarchist kind of utopia styled film, you'd make more anarchists out of that than anybody that would ever listen to Pick Your Fucking Libertarian ANCAP radio show. I don't care which one. They would never do half of what one movie put in theaters, real theaters. Okay. Not some L. Neil Schulman, or I'm sorry, not L. I confuse them. L. Neil Smith, not Alongside Night. Okay. By Schulman there. If you got a real film, like I'm telling you, shit would change just like that. That's the kind of power, the movies that, that art form or that art really, really has. And so, that's been really infiltrated. And so I never have any confidence, like what it would take. I mean, everything's a remix. Everything's a fucking remix, but you can get somewhat more original remixes, kind of like Star Wars was back in 77 and so on. For there to be really original content, I think that's kind of what's going on, is that they'd have to tell stories and put things on display that would be anathema to the present money-making machine that exists, that allows for that content even really to get made, I suppose. So a bit conspiratorial of me, but I think that's okay. And I think that there is actually pretty fair evidence for it. Because again, that's all it takes is for the military or, someone to say, no, we're not interested. I mean, even like, the government of California controls how many, different permits that you have to be able to make a film. And all this stuff. I mean, the government, if they don't want something to get made at a really high production value, yes, they can absolutely put a stop to it. And it's not hard. It's really not hard. So, and that's why I always kind of laugh when people say that TV and the media and all that is the last bastion of free speech and everything. No, you're fucking kidding me. I mean, I kind of get it. Within a certain paradigm, it's a bastion of free speech, but at the same time, no, not really, because you can't really do whatever you want. Even if somebody is willing to give you the money, even if somebody at Hollywood's like, yeah, go ahead, make a prestige film, which prestige film means that they don't have to make the money back on it. It's just something to appease critics or to look good in their catalog. Go ahead and make that. Here's 10 million, or, today, I guess it'd probably be like 80 million. Here's 80 million. You go ahead, you make it. If it's something that somebody in power doesn't like, it's never going to see the light of day. It's just not going to. I mean, and I know we don't want to think about the fact that our art is controlled like that, at least that art at that level, at that scale. But it is, it really, really is. So anyway, all of this is to say that I don't know what parts of, not that the Foundation series is, inherently anarchistic or anything, but you're never really going to, like, they're not, if there's something in, I think there are things in the Foundation series, which is one of my favorite, collection of books ever. There's a lot of things within that are very anti-authoritarian, that those messages might fall by the wayside. And again, folks, if you have any questions or whatsoever that you want to make a comment about, in the YouTube chat, by all means, go for it and put it there. Like I said, I don't really have a whole bunch of preloaded questions anyway. But I can keep going on this vein, on this tirade about entertainment, if you want. But yeah, so again, just very shocking as far as that the Foundation series is finally going to get made. Even though with a lot of this stuff, I really want to be at the point where I'll believe it when I see, kind of the shovel break ground on actual filming and production of it, more so than, necessarily what, more so than just announcing it. Because I mean, hell, look, folks, there's a chance that Amazon might not make the Culture series at all. I mean, I thought that Kim Stanley Robinson's magnificent Mars trilogy was going to get made by Spike TV. That hasn't been made. It was actually supposed to get released last year. Did it ever get made? No. So sometimes these announcements and buying these rights can just be like, an investor play of some kind. I mean, we don't necessarily have to feel like the confidence. I mean, like when Marvel says they're going to make something, they fucking make it, right? But not, that doesn't work that way for everybody else. So anyway, looks like we got someone in the Hangout, which hell yeah, you can. We got Jacob. You can jump right on to the audio and video if you want, and we can see that amazing hair. God damn it! And
you know it.
Yeah, baby. So how's it going, man?
Good, man. I just kind of want to riff a little on what you've been talking about.
Sure.
I wasn't expecting to come here for breaking news, but this is the first I've heard about the Foundation being picked up by
getting
Apple.
Made by Apple. Yeah.
And
I was shocked.
Yeah, I admit it's still one of my blind spots. I don't think I've really read any Asimov, but
oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I literally just started reading my first Le Guin book a few days ago. So
which one are you reading?
The Dispossessed.
Oh yeah, that's where you start. It's either that or Left Hand of Darkness. You start with one of those. But good choice. Hell yes. How far in? I mean, what are you thinking of it so far?
Oh, I'm probably only just a couple chapters in. I'm listening to the audio books. So
sure.
Not much has happened. So
right. No,
I mean,
cool.
there's some cultural differences that people are noticing, but yeah, that's
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of how it starts off. Is you got that anarchist just dropped in the middle of this world, and things are different for him. So yeah, absolutely. Well, good call. But anyway, yeah, I mean, there's so many great Asimov books. I wouldn't even know where to tell people to start to really get like his flavor. Like I think actually for most people, I tell them to do like End of Eternity, which is a really cool time travel story. But anyway, what do you got, Jacob? What do you got to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about some of the lack of original properties being developed in Hollywood.
Sure.
For television or the movies, and I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's really that big of a deal because, I mean, obviously Hollywood is risk averse, and so they want as sure a thing as possible.
Yep.
But I think it's great that they give some love to some great authors who have developed amazing worlds You know, like like with the Expanse, for instance,
Sure.
or the Culture series. Even though Banks is no longer with us,
Yeah.
um, I think uh, it gives those people a broader voice in the culture, and
No, you're right, because I think like if the 84 Dune movie didn't get made, I might have never gotten into Dune, and that would have been like, in my mind, a crime against me because it's such a powerful series, for so many reasons. So I mean, yeah, you're certainly right about. I think that's not an unfair point. That this does give broader appeal and hopefully gets people into actually, like, reading the books and going deeper, when it happens, which it does. I mean, certainly with Game of Thrones, like that TV series, turn those books into phenomenons, as to where before I don't think anybody really knew much. I mean, there was some, it was popular, but it wasn't as popular as
oh yeah, it wasn't part of the general zeitgeist, that's for sure.
no, not at all. I mean, that shit, now it's terrible, I can't even think of his name. What's it, George R. Martin or whatever. He, nobody knew who the hell he was. I mean, or at least a lot of people didn't, and now he's a household name. So sure, you're right about that. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, I do get that. It would be great to see something you haven't seen before. I mean, I don't remember the last time I was truly uh, shocked or amazed by some new movie that came out. It seems like we've been in a holding pattern. I mean, as much as and I really do love. I know you're not as much of a fan, but I do love a lot of the Marvel movies. But they're very formulaic, and uh, that's what they put out because they know they make money.
Oh yeah, they're safe. Yeah. I totally understand that, and I know they got to make money. I mean, otherwise, why do it? I mean, not everything can be a prestige film. That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, what other? I mean, can you think of what, like, the last movie that you really saw that was like a totally original property that, like, wasn't even based off of a book? I mean, I think
maybe Jupiter Ascending that you mentioned, that might have been the last one. And
yeah, I think that's same for me. Like, I want to think of, what was it? Was it Annihilation? But that's based off of a Jeff Vandermeer series. So, but that was pretty wild, weird, but pretty wild. Yeah, I have a hard time thinking of like a genuinely, original property. And it's so funny because, I think back to The Matrix, right? And I remember reading Cinescape, which was a magazine, kind of a nerd magazine back in the 90s. And everybody was like, yeah, we don't know what the hell this is going to be, but they're laying down $80 million on it, and it looks wild. This is going to be pretty interesting. And I mean, and it literally changed the world. So it's kind of weird. Like, I don't exactly get why Hollywood isn't interested in taking those kind of risks again. I mean, because that was the biggest risk ever and had the hugest payoff. I mean, just a crazy payoff. And again, we have whole terms now that we use that movie completely created. So yeah, I don't know. I know there's a government aspect of it, which I was talking about, but then at the same time, I don't know what the hell's going on in Hollywood. It's very weird.
Yeah, I don't know either. But it's what we've got right now. So
no, it's true.
I don't think they're going to be making any Sovereign Universe films anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the thing, with the comic book movies, you raise that point. I mean, they're like, every day I'm seeing news. Okay, this is going to get turned into, I mean, like, I think they're even making an Unbeatable Squirrel Girl fucking movie. I mean, like, or at least she's going to be in a movie or something. Like, I mean, they are mining the fuck out of comic books, and they're any minor character is getting a movie made out of them. And it's really to the point where it's just like, I mean, you got to get to the opposite end of that, where how can anybody even care, about like that news? And because it's all, they'll just make anything. I mean, I think I said this before on like a Q&A or something, just imagine that whatever comic book you're reading right now, they've already made a movie out of it, or they already made a TV series out of it, because they're grasping it at straws. Well, I don't know.
Well, and then you've kind of got a reverse problem too, in with books and comic books where you have people writing to get a TV or movie deal,
Sure.
and that perhaps you know they're they get a little formulaic themselves, and if that
Yeah.
sells, it pushes the whole industry in one in towards that direction. So there's homogenization on that end as well.
Yeah, sure. That's true. That's true. And you know what actually just came to mind? A movie more recent than Jupiter Ascending that was an original property that actually did really well was Arrival.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Well, but
think.
that was based on a short story.
Oh, was no, you're right.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, yeah. So no, all right. Yeah, I stand corrected. You're right. So that's still Jupiter Ascending. It's interesting. I mean, I'll just bring this up because there's been a lot of talk around this. Of course, Denis Villeneuve's Dune movie.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that one up too. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a company, I forget the name of the company. They're doing a big tabletop RPG about it, but basically the rollout of all of the products that just this one company was doing for Dune, it's pretty clear Hollywood is banking very hard on the Dune series, and I think they have to because they know they're going to have to compete now. And maybe they had insider information to know that they had to compete on this because Apple had to buy those movie rights for Foundation off of somebody or buy the rights, the airing rights. I think Dune's about the only thing you could have that could take on anything Disney's got. It's the only thing that could take on the Foundation series. It's the only thing that could take on the Culture series and Lord of the Rings. I mean, like it's kind of Hollywood's dark horse. So, but go ahead.
I hope so because, all right, from an artistic standpoint,
Mhm.
I have a lot of faith in Villeneuve.
Yeah, sure. Blade Runner 2049 was fucking amazing. Yeah,
but that didn't do very well, financially speaking. So our audience is going to be ready for his version of Dune. I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I mean, I would love to see it be a huge hit. Get more of that type of thing made, but
I think, I mean, based on since we're already, I mean, that's another one where there really hasn't even been a breaking of ground of production on that so much. For there to be already these crazy announcements of massive merchandising deals and all that. I think Hollywood is looking, no matter what, like this has to succeed. I don't know if they're going to get in Villeneuve's way, which would be ironic. Like if the bean counters get involved in the production of Dune that Villeneuve is doing, like if he did what David Lynch had to do and he says, okay, no, take my name off the fucking film, and put Alan Smithy on as the director, right? Like that's the name, the code name that they use.
Yeah.
The director leaves a production, or when they're not approving the cut. That would be pretty ironic if that happened. But yeah, I think they're banking really, really hard on this one. And that could be good because that means they're putting in the amount of money that it needs. That means that they're taking it very seriously. Even though I think they were really taking it seriously in '84, and I still think that was a great film, it just ended up being really confusing for people. Unfortunately, which I think that was Dune's really only problem back then, is that it was just way too confusing for people. Because in '84, when you went to go see Dune, they were literally at the movie theaters, they were handing you out cards that explained what all the characters did. And that's not
really.
Yeah, I mean, that's terrifying. If you're getting handed a cheat sheet, to go and see this movie, you're in for, oh no, what the hell, but then for whatever reasons that, it's still an amazing movie. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Villeneuve's version there. So anyway, anything else you got on that?
I mean, it's tangentially related. I mean, you were talking about about the power of art, and you've been really hammering on that a lot lately. And I just wanted to say, keep that up. I've noticed it in several episodes. You talk about the importance of art. I mean, it can change people for the better and for the worse. And, we need more to help change people for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not talked about enough. And it is completely valid and wonderful and largely legal activism. Not that I care about legality, but I mean, it's Well, as I've said for years and on the and on shows recently, and I appreciate you picking up what I've been putting down, and you're certainly right about it, and it's intentional. We're not going to change anything through politics or economics, and I know a lot of people especially don't want to hear the economic part. Okay, but I really don't think we are. Like as far the only way you're going to do it is genuinely by like getting right to the heart of people. And the one thing that has always gotten to the heart of humans for as long as there have been humans is art itself. And so I think that's a direction we need to pay way more attention to. People need to be putting out as much as they can. It's sad too, because it doesn't matter what anarchist flavor we're talking about, pick your color, go with the whole Technicolor rainbow of anarchism. Nobody's putting out enough, content where anarchism is a baseline on it. No one's putting out enough content where like the next step in human evolution is a major part of it. I mean, there's just not enough. There's not even remotely enough. And one could get conspiratorial about it, kind of like I was saying earlier, where if Hollywood really wanted to put out a powerful message, the government wouldn't let them. Okay. One could go down kind of that road, but I don't know. In fact, a great comic, speaking of comic books, and something that actually already had a movie, but was made in the 60s, still a tremendous film. Probably the best comic book running right now, in my opinion, is Barbarella from IDW. And they're doing from Dynamite, not IDW. I always get those two confused. They're doing the run it's only 9 issues in. The 9th issue just came out Wednesday. And it's a mature comic, and they're putting that right on the cover of it, saying this is mature. And I mean, there's plenty of sex in it, plenty of, unorthodox relationships. I mean, like there's robots, fucking humans. You've got, lesbianism, all kinds of homosexuality, all kinds of non-traditional, expressions of love and everything. And I thought it was really interesting. There's a point where they, for whatever reason, I'm not going to explain the story, but for whatever reason, Barbarella and this mathematician character, they end up like during like the 1920s in New York, and like, because they're dealing with mobsters and everything. And Barbarella and this mathematician, who are from the far-flung future where Barbarella is originally from, they call them proto-humans. And I just thought, like, it just stunned me when she said that. Like, she's not, they're human and they look just like Barbarella, but she's like, no, these are proto-humans. Like, this is what humans were like before they became, what we are, and have like their level of, of not just like nothing really, it seems to do with even technological advancement, but more sociological advancement. That Barbarella constantly puts on display, and does so even with just nice, quick one-liners. And I wonder if kind of like how Star Trek back in the 60s was able to slip in a lot of different, messages that the TV execs and whatever didn't notice. A part of me almost feels like, and it's one of the reasons I'm really enjoying the Barbarella series, is that they're slipping in all these little ideas at points. Like they're just little quick one-shot lines. But if you're reading them and if you're reading it carefully, you go, whoa, what the hell did she just say? And it's amazing, when that happens. But I loved that concept of like, oh no, these are proto-humans. And that just those kinds of ideas, and getting all that out there in art. Absolutely. It's not being done enough. And I appreciate your support on that sort of message, that we got to be concentrating on art and all that, that's resonating with you, and that, I think you agree. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. I read that first issue of Barbarella months ago. That was the only one I thought. And I thought I know Brian would love this. It seemed right up your alley. So I'm not surprised to hear that you have been reading it.
Yeah. So, absolutely. And I will say, quickly, not to just like talk about me or get really like navel gazing with Sovryn Tech. I mean, like Barbarella, when I was young, huge Duran Duran fan, still am a huge Duran Duran fan. And I always wondered, like, okay, wait, where does the name Duran Duran come from? It's just kind of a weird name for an 80s pop band to have. And you find out that that's the name of a scientist in the movie Barbarella. And of course, then it made sense that like in 96, Duran Duran has a song called Electric Barbarella. It's actually a great song. And And so that I was like, okay, well, what's this Barbarella thing? And then you find out, like, at science fiction conventions, everybody would have like a Barbarella poster or something with Jane Fonda on it and all that. And eventually I got to watching the film and I said that, I don't know what the hell that was. That was nuts, but okay, there was some really great sex in it. So what the hell? Like, I could watch this over and over again. And I became a really big fan of Barbarella over the years, the character in general. In fact, long before Dynamite started their new comic book series, I'll let this out. The character of Dr. Goldblossom, as much as it may be based on certain Sovryn Tech co-host, is very much like based around the character of Barbarella. And a lot of the cheese and kind of over the topness and sort of message of love and a lot of those things that are in the Sovryn universe are totally based off of, what was his name? Jean-Claude Forest, I think, was the original writer of Barbarella. Totally based off of what he was putting down, really decades ago. And I still think it's such advanced stuff, but that's the thing. We haven't paid enough attention to art to realize that a lot of the messages we want to get out there are already out there, or it's a great venue to be able to do it now, more so than ever before. So anyway, yeah, that's what I've got on that. But anything else, Jacob?
No, I think I'll log off for the day. But
sure.
Yeah,
I'll switch on to some other subjects. I appreciate I love talking the geeky shit. So, yeah. So it's no problem at all. But anyway, thanks, man.
Yep. Have a good one.
Yeah. So, all right. Again, if you want to ask any questions in the YouTube chat, feel free to lay it down. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of keep running my mouth. This wasn't like an exact question that I got, but I want to talk about it. And this isn't really a tech subject. I mean, the Foundation series kind of was a tech subject because, that had to do with that whole subject really more so than the fact that the Foundation series is getting made. It really had more to do with the fact that, like, Apple knows it can't innovate. And so how do you keep making money? Well, again, you go with the seemingly infinitely scalable marketplace, which is art, which is entertainment. Okay. Because people always want to be entertained. So, and you can just keep making it, and then you can make side movies, and you can make blah, 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 you can just keep going with that. So it's an interesting thing to point out, just how much money Apple is putting into entertainment, because I think that speaks to how much money they don't think that they can actually make when it comes to their actual products or software, it's like their hardware or their software. So anyway, that was kind of the point with that. But a question that I've been getting a lot lately, and well, actually I've gotten this, I think I might have even read one of the emails I got from somebody, because I got an email. There was an episode, boy, this might have been a year ago. God, fuck, I can't believe that. Maybe, well, anyway, it was the episode when Mistress Harley was on. Mistress Harley is the tech dom. And she, I dig what she's got going on. She's pretty famous. She's been on shows certainly significantly larger than significantly larger than Sovryn Tech is. Not that Sovryn Tech is small. All right, I'm going to stop for a second because I just got a notification. And while we're talking about entertainment, I haven't shared this yet in a newsletter, and it wouldn't be until September's newsletter that I could share it. I talked about in last week's episode 291 of Sovryn Tech. I talked about there at the end of it, during the climax, I talked about the whole Blockbuster thing, about, how I watched this angry video game nerd review, and he's been doing these reviews recently where it's like they're in an old rental store and it's just a few guys sitting around shooting the shit, about whatever movie they happen to be reviewing. Well, I just got a notification literally as I'm recording this. A notification just came across my desktop here that said, Angry Video Game Nerd just did another review, and it's of the Street Fighter movie from 1994. I fucking love this movie, but here's the weird thing about this. Okay. So we're going to go on a little side tangent. All right. And I'll get back to the Mistress Harley thing and what I meant about that in a minute. But something to recognize is that a lot of websites, for example, IO9, and a bunch of other ones, okay, if they start talking about, if these websites, pick your comicbook.com, whatever, take your pick of the entertainment website. And this annoys me to no end. And I don't like have like literal confirmation of this, but I really feel that it's what's going on. If a website suddenly starts talking about, like, out of the blue, here's an example. Okay, if out of the blue, IO9 wrote some article about the original Stargate movie, let me tell you what that article is really about. That article is priming you for an announcement to come out in the next few weeks or even next few months that there's going to be a new Stargate film. Okay, now I'm not saying that actually happened, but it's happened a lot. Like there was a point where IO9 was doing a bunch of Lost in Space articles, and then like 5-6 weeks later, suddenly there's an announcement. Netflix is remaking Lost in Space. Now, do you think that was what just serendipity, fortuitousness that happened there? No. Netflix told IO9 months in advance, hey, we're going to remake Lost in Space. Start publishing some articles, because most websites and most news sources today they're native, what you call native advertising, where it's meant to look like it's a story about this, but really it's to try and sell you something or to try and push you in a direction or get you, think in a certain way. But at the end of the day, it's to sell you something. It's called native advertising. Okay. This kind of thing happens all the time. Now, I'm a little Angry Video Game Nerd has got, James there that show's gotten big enough. I mean, they're on Amazon now too. It's not just on YouTube. His episodes there on Amazon, on Prime Video. He's pretty big. And I could believe that he would get forwarded some money to talk about a movie that a remake is going to come out in the very near future. Now, what makes this weird is that a story I had lined up for the Sovryn Tech newsletter was a write-up in The Guardian about the 1994 Street Fighter movie and how it was just like this epic mess. And it was amazing to read. It was because I love, here, I've got the Blu-ray. Well, I won't pull it down right now, but it's right up there under Darkman. I love that film. I think that film is so fun, and there's so many great one-liners in it that Van Damme delivers as Colonel Guile. Of course, it's the last movie of Raul Julia and so on. Like out of nowhere, the Guardian makes this. And it wasn't just like a 5-paragraph blurb story that they did to talk about how Van Damme was on coke in 94 and he was off to Hong Kong and wouldn't come back on Mondays or Tuesdays or something like that. It wasn't anything like that. This was a long form Guardian piece, and the Guardian's known for these. When they have a very special story, they'll do that. In fact, they even have a podcast feed. The Guardian has a podcast feed where it's called The Long Reads, where their long form stories, they will turn them into podcasts. Now, I don't think they've done one for Street Fighter, but they'll do these now and again. And that's really precious kind of mind share to put out about this little fucking film that outside of me, most people really don't remember. Okay. Even though it was kind of a big deal back in 94, for that to happen. And we just had somebody join up, and we're going to talk to them in a second here. So, but it's weird that, okay, we get this huge story in The Guardian talking about the 94 Street Fighter film. And then now we also have James doing a full on video at Angry Video Game Nerd about the 94 Street Fighter film. So I'm kind of, I get suspicious when you get all of these, different, venues coming together and suddenly they start talking about something. Does it mean we're going to get a Street Fighter movie in the near future? Well, look, there's actually a ton of Street Fighter movies and they come out all the time. Just they don't do like a big theater release or something. Maybe there's going to be a huge theatrical release coming up, but we'll see. Mark my words. If in the next few weeks or even like the next 6 months, suddenly there's kind of an announcement like that, Golden Stallion called it once again. But, anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. But we've got actually Daniel. Daniel, did you want to get on? Did you want to jump on? You got a question?
Actually, I don't know.
Okay. No, if you're just there to listen, go for it, man. You can just listen. Yeah, that's fine.
No, I'm just coming back from work now. So,
oh, hell yeah. Yeah. No, just listen in then, man. Cool. All right. Thanks. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, there's a couple ways that people can listen to the show. You can actually join the Hangout and just kind of mute yourself. I know people have done that over time. Or there's the YouTube link that the people can do it through that. So let's see. Actually, in the YouTube chat, I played the Street Fighter tabletop RPG back in the day. Yeah, Street Fighter 2 was a phenomenon. It was a fucking phenomenon. Like there has been very few times that something certainly a video game franchise has gone to that level. And that in Mortal Kombat, there was kind of that friendly competition going between those companies too, that really helped both game series in a very real way. So anyway, I guess I'll go back to, since we got about 15 minutes left. So if you got other questions you want to get in, feel free to get them in. And again, you can ask them in the YouTube chat. Yeah, tabletop RPG is Street Fighter though. That's amazing. I have a here. You know what? I'm going to pull it down. So don't worry. I'm still talking, so it's not dead audio. You never want dead audio. But if you're watching the video, you can see I've actually got a Street Fighter 2, got a figure here of Zangief from who is kind of my favorite character, and actually a very funny guy in the movie of Street Fighter. But yeah, there's a nice little classic action figure. Admittedly, it is a remake. That there's a company, I think Super 7, and they do other ones. I have the Rocketeer up there as well. I have a figure of the Rocketeer. I'm a huge fan of that movie. So anyway, I'll set that aside. But just so you know how much I love Street Fighter. When you've got action figures still and you're 37 years old, no, you can have action figures and you're 70. And I think it's a beautiful thing. You know, kind of like Dark Helmet, right? No, sir, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again. Anyway. So, all right. I was talking about Mistress Harley. So a lot of emails that I've gotten have to do with where, and I don't know if people don't know this about me. If you don't know this about me, it's one of the things that I had gotten questions about. In fact, when I used to be on Free Talk Live, because I did Free Talk Live for 2 years, Stephanie and I both did it with Mark Edge. And I would get people calling into, it was funny because, you know, Sovryn Tech's never been a call-in show. This is the closest thing we've ever done to a call-in show where we do the live hangouts once a month. Okay. But years ago, you know, we're talking back in 2012, 2013, I would get people that would call into Free Talk Live to talk to me. Again, there's 2 other hosts there, but they wanted to talk to me about something I said on Sovryn Tech. I thought it's very sweet. And, you know, I mean, you can't buy that kind of press. I mean, that's phenomenal. But one of the things that would get, you know, asked of me a lot is, wow, you know, Brian, what do you mean by this whole, you know, you're a feminist thing? Okay. So if you didn't know that I have an affinity towards feminism, well, Sovryn Tech's been running 6 years and that's never really changed. I don't call myself, I mean, there was a time where I kind of called myself a feminist, but one of the things you learn within feminism is that if you're a guy, you call yourself an ally to feminism, you don't exactly call yourself a feminist. Okay. But that's all. I'm not going to get into all those semantics and, you know, in the here and there, because a lot of stuff to a lot of people can seem to boil down to semantics. And when you start arguing from that perspective, you know, then they get all, you know, glassy eyed on you, and what good is that? So anyway, with Mistress Harley, you know, she was like talking about, oh, I think women should be in charge. I think women are this, blah, 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 blah. And then I got an email from a guy that says, you know, what are you, a coward? You know, you weren't sticking up for men there or anything like that. And that's utter horseshit. I mean, the entire statement, like me being a coward and so on. Sorry, I've been through way too much in my life to ever be called that kind of thing. But anyway, so the one thing I get a lot of questions about, and I'm just going to put it in summation, is, Brian, do you hate men? No, I don't hate myself. And I fully ascribe as a man. I fully describe, call myself a man. I identify as a man. I am a man. Okay. I don't hate myself. There's times where we crack jokes about men, just like I cracked jokes about government and so on and so on. Look, I talk about that. Here's the thing. Here's my take on this. Okay. If it sounds like I'm being harsh towards guys, I feel I have a good reason. I think guys more so than just about anybody. Okay. Because I do think that women have, along with other, minority groups, racial groups, whatever else, that have been really hindered, hampered, attacked, and treated completely unfairly throughout history. And look, even if you buy into, Western, whatever kind of history books, it's right there. Like, you can read it. You can say now that it's no longer the case, or that, oh no, women actually have control, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I will agree with you that in family court, absolutely, there is a, women have seemed to get, better treatment and have an advantage or something there. Okay. I'm not going to pretend that that's not so, but, a lot of this historical cases of oppression with various groups, including women, is a very real thing. Now, again, if you want to bring up statistics and argue that that's not the case anymore, we can argue about those statistics. But historically not that far away, decades, even 100 years is really a stone's throw as far as history goes. Remember in Cosmos, remember when Carl Sagan, who I love, guess what? I don't hate men. I love Carl Sagan. Remember when he does the kind of the galactic calendar, and he's showing how much of time on a monthly calendar, just like on your average month calendar. Look behind me. If you see behind me on the video, like look at one of those calendars, one of those dates. If you looked at like the 31st day on the history of the universe, you're not even like a speck on that little square box of day 31 of the universal calendar or the galactic calendar. I mean, that's how much time has passed since there has been humans. Just practically nothing compared to the age of the universe. Okay. So again, 100 years is a very short period of time. Very short period of time. So, it wasn't that long ago that, that all of these different people were still treated like shit. And if you think that culture changed just like that overnight, no, that's a pretty tough pill to swallow if one is thinking genuinely logically about it. Okay. So my point in saying all that and saying all of this is that, no, I do not hate men. What I do think, though, is I think that it is incumbent upon men to be nothing less than fucking amazing, to be nothing less than the absolute best, optimum, pick your positive adjective, to be that. And honestly, a lot of the guys that I encounter, even in the liberty movement or whatever, I'll just say it, they're lazy fucking bums. Not all, obviously. Okay. But I mean, no one can make only a Sith speaks in absolutes, right? It's not an absolutist statement, but I think it is really incumbent upon guys today to be just the best fucking thing that they can be. I think it's incumbent upon anarchists to be the best person that they could possibly be. That doesn't even have to do with gender. All right. And so I get a little, it's one of the things I do when I think something isn't up to snuff. I get insulting about it. That's true for technology. It's true for the entertainment business. It's true for art. It's true for men. And I've said this before, that you have too many guys, too many people worried about how can we make the world better for men instead of men thinking, how can I be the better man in this world? They want to reshape the world to somehow, like pattern what they are instead of them themselves being the better person. And that's my problem. That's where I'm coming from. Okay. And if I might not get that point across all the time, and I'll try to do better about it. But I wanted to address it here because I've also gotten recent emails, in that vein. So anyway, we got a little bit left, and we got my Star Wars update co-host, Sovryn Tech co-host, full on. Robin Freebeard is in the Hangout. Robin, man, how we doing? You wanna jump on? You got some questions? What do you got?
Hey man, how's it going?
Good.
No,
good.
I mean, I just wanted to jump in on the conversation. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think not only do we need to just be the best men we can be, I mean, we just need to do better, period. One criticism I have, especially about, the libertarian culture is that, we're really good at identifying what a lot of people like to call the hidden regulation in society. But the blind spot is when it comes to, gender relations.
Yeah.
And, just look at history. Look at what's going on in the news. Spot the hidden regulation. It's there. You can see that, people are not being treated fairly or equally in any sense of the word.
Yeah. I mean, how many Uma Thurmans have to come out?
Right.
You take your pick to say, hey, look, this is what I've had to go through. And you think, oh, no, that's a very successful woman, blah, blah, blah. No.
Right.
that doesn't matter.
Yeah. And the other blind spot comes is like a lot of these groups like MRAs and stuff, they like to, give over much attention to the outliers.
Mm-hmm.
And, say, well, this is here where, actually men are, being mistreated. But a lot of the stuff they bring up tends to be, a lot rarer. And like I said, the outlier situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and look, it's funny because you will have where in fact, I remember years ago, I guess maybe this is when Obama was going to be getting into office, or someone on the left was getting into office, and Glenn Beck was talking about it. And they made, it was in some town in Oregon. There was some kind of protest going on, and Glenn Beck, it looked like this huge leftist kind of activism of some kind going on. And Glenn Beck sent his own cameras there, and you found out there was actually only like literally 2 people. But right. the camera editing was so good, the editing was so well done that it made it look like it was this huge movement of some kind. Now, people say that, well, yeah, that's a tactic of the left or something. No, why would it just be a tactic of the left? It's the tactic of all authoritarianism, to make certain things look bigger than they are, to have it as look, even in podcasting, okay, the really popular podcasts, unless it's a show that has like big name guests on or something like that, one of the things that they have to do is they have to create a boogeyman. Okay. Because they need to create something to create an excitement around their show. They need something that they have to be against. It's a very easy way to get people excited about whatever the hell you're talking about. And a lot of times people will create boogeymen. And I think that in a lot of this, there have been boogeymen created over time where they will look at the extreme, like you were talking about, they'll use the extreme examples of, say, feminists that are arguing for no more sex and we need, transhuman bodies or something like that. Instead of looking at the very real cases that have come out, you take your Uma Thurmans, you take whoever else that have said, no, look, this is exactly what happened. And, and they're completely reasonable arguments. Go ahead.
But even what's the problem if some people do want to completely cut out, any sort of biological need for men to reproduce, and they want transhuman, why not just let them do it? How does that affect you in the least?
Well, right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing too, is that, okay, just let them go. You go over there. I mean, it is, at the end of the day, it really is a big planet. You right. Go ahead and you go over there and you have the great time. You become transhumanists. You go over there and, and you do your thing. But people just can't seem to let well enough alone. They're terrified that their kids are going to see it somehow, and then their kids are going to think that it's okay. Well, guess what? No, parents, it is okay, because they're over there doing it. They're not bothering you,
Well, I don't even see that they need to go anywhere. I mean, you look at and unfortunately that is becoming a necessary thing in some communities. You look at the situation of the transgender child, and I don't remember which state this was, but she started using the women's restroom in this public school, and this private Facebook group of quote unquote concerned parents basically started complaining about it, and then it turned into death threats, and then they had to shut down the school. I mean, yeah. Why can't you just let people be?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. That really you can, you can just let people be. That not everybody has to go carve off their own little side. I'm just saying, if they wanted to do it at a societal scale, there's a place for them, to
yeah.
But I understand I completely get what you're saying. Yeah, just let people be whatever the hell, they want to be.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why that bothers anybody. I don't understand. And really, of course, I always feel like if you're concerned, well, my kid's going to see that, you're really more concerned that you're going to see that, often enough. I mean, I think there's people that genuinely are concerned about their parents, but a lot of times parents are just using their kids as a shield. And they're using their kids for all kinds of things.
Well, even so what? I mean, what is your kid going to see? I mean, you're talking about your kid, crawling into the stall with this person and taking a peak. No, right. I mean, you should stop raising creepers,
Yeah, exactly. I hear you, man. But that's it, is that, too many of us are not concerned with just being the best people that we can be. And we're too busy trying to tell other people how to be, and that's what I'm seeing a lot. And I agree with you, your critique of libertarianism, where, I get it. Yes, people have the right to, if they just want to sit on a couch and eat Doritos, and I mean this, go right ahead. Right. I don't say that as insult. I'm just saying, don't want to live that, but then expect to tell other people how the hell they should live.
Right, exactly, and that's the whole thing too. Is like I said, is the libertarians pride themselves on being able to identify the hidden factor that's going on, that's causing certain problems, but they just have this one glaring blind spot when it comes to society. You know, they're overly concerned with the economics, and that's just one segment of life that we all have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I mean, it's just people accepting kind of mediocrity and wallowing and trying to thrive within mediocrity, which is ironic because libertarianism supposedly is a lot about meritocracy. I've yet to see, I've seen few, if any, examples of even attempts at real meritocracy. Everything is cheating.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is gaming the system. Everything is, I mean, like, it's just the worst. And I've talked about it over the years, like how you have entire social media groups within libertarianism where and it's a secret group where the whole thing is about, okay, you prop up my story and then I'll prop up yours. And like, I mean, it's just like this really underground thing, but it makes it look like that these people are bigger than they really are. Again, it's more of those tactics where you're not really seeing the reality of the situation, and so on. But anyway, I'm getting way out in the weeds. But
well, no, I mean, yeah, we've both experienced this. I mean, I challenge anybody to, join the Free State Project and move to New Hampshire and start a, kind of libertarian focused business based off the values of meritocracy. See how long it takes for things to start going south.
Yeah. And I've been here for years.
Yeah.
And I've seen it tried and I've seen where all that shit goes. And it doesn't fly.
Yeah, the community doesn't actually function that way.
No, right. And again, I think that there's a lack of concentration on where the change really starts. And,
right.
Not to sound like a Michael Jackson song, but, you got to start with the man in the mirror.
Right.
And
absolutely.
He's got to change his ways. And,
right.
If you're not working on that first, fuck anything else that you want. Who cares? Because you're not even self-centered, or should I say self-interested in the way that you should be, and solving your own problems, before you go out really into the world, I think. So yeah, it's a really important thing. And I get why people think that I'm saying I hate men or something like that. No, I hate mediocrity. And I want people to be their best selves, whatever that is. And that's a subjective thing. I agree. But I want them to just try, and they don't even try. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Can I
go ahead?
Oh, Daniel, right on, man. Go for it.
Yeah, sorry. I'm glad that I actually jumped in, even though it's 45 minutes late. But I'm also a little annoyed that it's at the 1 hour mark, and there's probably not enough time to. We
can add on a
really
little time. Go for it.
But. So I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, I think I saw on Netflix Hannah Gadsby's Nanette. It's a stand-up show. I mean, theoretically stand-up comedy, but it's right. More of a. Have you seen it, or do you know what I'm talking about?
I know of it. I haven't seen it though. No.
It's probably one of the most powerful things that I've seen in a very long time, and at the same time, it's one of the most frustrating things that I've seen in a long time as well. And it kind of goes somewhat toward, like, my frustration of it is probably not too dissimilar from whoever it was that asked you if you hate men, or what brought this about. And I'm wondering, maybe I can talk about it at the next live hangout, like September's live hangouts, instead of now, because I don't know if I can summarize it well enough, but I think I'll try quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
It's spoiler alert. Whoever wants to turn it off now. Otherwise, you're all fucking terrorists, as the great Brian Sovryn likes to say.
Well, Brian Sovryn. Yeah.
Quote Brian Sovryn. And by the way, Brian, for all those hardcore followers of yours, if you go back to episode 1 of Sovryn Tech, when you introduced yourself, I believe you introduced yourself as an anarcha-feminist.
I might have said
the very first sentences that came out of your mouth on podcast.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Yeah.
I'll be a resident historian on the gaming historian show. Anyway, no, it's sidetrack. So Hannah Gadsby is Tasmanian, Australian. She's lesbian, and she she had an absolutely horrific time coming out. And her show, she turned to comedy. I don't know if she was a comedian before that or before coming out or not, but she turned to comedy, and mostly sort of as a defense mechanism. And the show Nanette is kind of like an autobiography of sorts, but it's also kind of putting lesbian stand-up or lesbian comedy on the pedestal and kind of shining a light on it.
Okay.
And how a lot of gay comedians or trans or various others of that realm, comedians just go along the lines of sort of self-deprecating humor in a way. And she found it, obviously, just that in itself not appropriate, because like, well, why do I need to insult myself to make you laugh? Why can't I insult someone else? Yeah. Which was the first thing that kind of annoyed me, because like, why do you need to insult anyone? But then it also turned to more along the lines of kind of like a bit of a meta thing around like, well, what is the sort of anatomy of comedy, and what makes comedy funny? And it's kind of like setting it up, setting the joke up and getting the punchline. So it's like getting the suspense and breaking the suspense. Right. But it's kind of like the beginning and the middle. But in comedy, you don't get the third part, which is the end, which is finding out what happened at the end of the story. And she gives a couple of examples and again, I really do apologize for those who haven't seen it, and I won't give too many examples, but one example of like a sort of a bad situation, which was portrayed in her comic acts before as funny and I guess, good in a way. It's like she was at a bus stop one night, and there was a dude and his girlfriend, and she was being nice to the lady, and the guy thought she was hitting on him, and he was about to punch her or fight her or something, and then he realized that she's a lady, and then he was like, oh, sorry, I was a guy or something like that. Or anyway, he thought it was he thought it was a misunderstanding because he was about to punch a lady, then he realized it was a lady, whereas she was still hitting on his girlfriend in a way. So that made it funny. If it was told as a full story, he would have, the audience would have realized that afterwards, after they had left, he came back realizing that she was hitting on her and beating her up anyway. Right. And it's just terrible, no matter how you look at it. And there was. Yeah. And there are other examples, and I don't want to give away the others because it is a good show and I encourage people to watch it. Mm-hmm. But it goes on for an hour and a half or however long it is, exploring all of the really terrible things that are clearly happening and that should clearly be known to everyone, including myself, and I do genuinely think that I am an ally and that I am not what's the word I'm looking for? Not
you're not an MRA,
patronizing, but more of it like not discriminating and right. I do genuinely think that I live my life in a way that I afford anyone, gay, straight, bisexual, trans, whatever, the same respect as anyone else. Sure. But having seen that routine and some of the jokes that I laughed at and some of the jokes that I didn't laugh at or that made me queasy, I came to realize, hang on a second, there are some things that I don't quite, realize that I have some bias, there. And that is a phenomenal way to get to people, because you really do get people to wear the other shoe. Yeah. And, because I think she had like was like really, really, really anti-male. which I thought was distasteful, which was then sort of after the joke, she was like, no, I'm just joking. It's just locker room talk.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit, that was like, yes, you made me feel very, very awkward. And now I realize sometimes when, there are jokes that are directed the other way, that people say, I don't take so much offense to it. So that's like an example where I realize, as much as I would never say those things, I don't respond in the same way when I hear someone else say those things, which shows a bias on my part, which I'm ashamed to admit, but fuck it. Everyone has flaws, so I'll admit it. But the bottom line is that, not the bottom line, but the sort of the undercurrent of it all, and I don't know if it was just, again, me being a straight heterosexual white male of upper middle class, taking it the wrong way, because I was clearly the sort of the butt of all of the insults and all of the jokes there. So I don't know whether that was what it was, but the thing is that everything was kind of still in a deprecating manner, but it was just deprecating towards a different group of people. And what needs to be realized is that when there are social norms, and when social norms are always going to exist because of societies, and it doesn't matter what the society is and what the social norms are, there's always going to be a norm. And it doesn't, you can agree with it, you can disagree with it, but there's always going to be a norm, because there's always going to be what people normally do in a society, right? Yeah. We can try to shift the norms into something more egalitarian or more whatever, into a norm that we're comfortable with, but there's always going to be a norm, and there's always going to be groups that are subordinate and groups that are superior. It's the way human nature is, and we should try to equalize and all of that stuff. But the thing is that it's not groups of people who act as groups of people, it's individuals who act with individual actions. And the reason why they can get away with it is because those actions are not dismissed, or these actions are not, they're given some kind of legitimacy. Such as if a guy beats up a lesbian woman in the middle of the night, she's not going to want to go to the police because it's his word against hers or whatever, and she's going to have to face a humiliation of telling them he beat me up because I hit on his girlfriend or something like that. So it's those kinds of those kind of norms that should obviously be taken care of, so that when an action such as battery happens, the person can seek justice. But at the end of the day, it's actions that are taken by scum, by violent people, by terrible people, that is the problem here, not the group membership. Right. And she got the reason why it was so frustrating to me, and I'll get off my soapbox soon, but the reason why it was so frustrating to me is because it was so powerful, and she had all of the tools to be able to get people to understand where she's coming from in the most effective way possible, through empathy, through comedy, through reaching, through actually getting the other person to put her shoes on. And she didn't take it all the way. She ended it with like a jab at men, for being men. And I'm like, why don't you realize that whether you like it or not, you are marginalizing, you're insulting, you're getting a group of people, and whether you think it's rightfully so or not, you're getting a group of people to become defensive and to hate you for what you're saying, because you're insulting them for what they might not even be, responsible for. And I hear what you're saying, like, when you talk about ANCAPs and you insult them and you say, well, if you're not one of those, then I'm not talking about you, or and I never get insulted by, if I, let's say that I define myself as an ANCAP. I don't really, but kind of, let's say I do. I never get insulted by what you say, because yeah, you raise a good point about all these group of people who are exhibiting the characteristics that you're saying, and I, as so happens, I don't, so I don't get insulted by that. But this is just like a very small example. When it comes to like a really successful show that gets so close, but then insults a group of people for being a group of people, it's like, have you not heard what you just said for the last hour and a half? I don't know. It was very frustrating. I encourage everyone to watch it to reach their own conclusions. I wouldn't mind hearing other people's thoughts on it, but at the end of the day, it's people who do bad things, and it's the people who did the bad things that is the problem. And when you put it in the context of who the person is who did the bad thing, and therefore extrapolate it to the group of people that person is a member of who do a bad thing, that is where things get bad. And it's like, men don't understand what it's like to come out of the closet. The fuck I do. Like, most people still don't know that I'm an anarchist.
Right.
Like, it took me 3 or 4 years to tell my parents that I'm an anarchist. I don't even talk to my wife about a whole bunch of things that are on my mind, because she's very unconfrontational and doesn't want to discuss some of these things because it's a little bit too tough for her. People that I work with, close friends of mine, don't know my true feelings. Like this, I don't know what it's like for a gay person to be in the closet. I admit, but I don't know what it's like to come out. I don't know what it's like to not tell people everything that there is about me. Mm-hmm. I don't know what oppression is. I'm Jewish, for fuck's sake. It's like, my people, quote unquote, my people, have been killed by the millions for just being what they are. Not that I believe, but, if I were alive 60, 70 years ago, whatever, 80 years ago, I would have been thrown in with a lot of them. So it's like, just because I'm a white heterosexual male doesn't mean that I can be lumped in with everything else. And that's the problem with anyone who collectivizes, whether it's Trump and his folk, or whether it's, Hannah Gatsby and her folk. It doesn't matter. Once you group people and collectivize, it just fucks things up, because it takes it away from the level that it's supposed to be solved at. It gets solved at the individual level. It doesn't get solved at the collective. Anyway, sorry.
I hear you, Daniel, and I am definitely going to be checking that show out as far as that goes. I hear so much of what you're saying, and certainly, I was going to bring that up. I mean, you and I, Daniel, are both Jewish ethnically. I'm not a believer by any means. I do wonder, like, do we have that very compassionate perspective that you were describing? Do we have that because of, that undercurrent in society of what happened to, quote unquote, our people, 50, 60 years ago? I mean, it's such a huge subject. I really, we could go another hour.
Yeah, that's why I was like hesitant to even bring it up.
Talking about all of it. Well, I think it's important to get that out there. And I don't want to. Where I want to kind of take this. I mean, Robin, do you have any quick thoughts that you want to get out there? I know you're kind of waiting there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the one, and I wouldn't even necessarily consider this a disagreement, because I do think we need to address this primarily on an individual level. Mm-hmm. But Daniel, you talked about cultural norms and how those are always going to be a factor. The thing is that we don't always pay attention to how we process those cultural norms, or necessarily even reinforce them on an individual level. So I think that's an important thing. When we see a criticism that appears on the surface to be, a collectivization, really what person is doing is identifying a cultural norm that is whether consciously or unconsciously being reinforced by a lot of people in society on an individual level, whether they're aware of it or not. Well, and I see a lot of that. So I think that it's like an important perspective when you talk about, saying that, you don't get personally offended when somebody, makes these criticisms or says the kind of things Brian does. because you understand that there are these forces that are at play in our society, and that there's a second component to where, you can be aware of those, in yourself, but a lot of people aren't. And a lot of people don't take that into consideration. And I don't think I'm really collectivizing when I'm saying that, because, all the evidence is there to support that.
So, Robin, you're actually taking it in the direction that I was going to go. I have one point I want to bring up first before I kind of build upon, I think, what you were saying. The first point is that I think that humans in general, and there you go, collectivizing, I think they are terrified of treating people as individuals, because the ultimate logical conclusion of treating everyone as an individual means that everything in existence is case by case. Okay. I mean, there's laws, physics and of the universe and all that. That's not case by case. Okay. But every human interaction is case by case. There are no hard and fast rules. And I think people are fucking terrified of that notion, of that concept. And I know not everybody agrees with me on that, okay, because they're individuals. But I think that's a very powerful part of all of this, and I've talked about that before. Now, where I want to build on top of what you were saying, Robin, is that a lot of these things, a lot of what we're talking about, a lot of things that get oppressed, a lot of things where people are getting, are told that they are wrong, or that they get again oppressed because of they love a woman and they're a woman or whatever that is. I think a big problem that we have is that we don't have, and you want to be careful, because again, it can turn into collectivizing, but we don't have terms. We don't have the terms to describe, what's even going on for someone. Okay. For example, the word lesbian, that comes from, the Isle of Lesbos, right? In Greece, there wasn't a word for it before. Of course, maybe there wasn't a need for the word, because women loving women and people not paying attention to gender maybe might not have been the name of the game. And of course, if you read the works of Hesiod, you kind of get that. But regardless, it's not until much later on that we actually we have terms or words to even describe the stuff to where we could even address it in the first place. And I think those terms can become like identifiers, and then a collectivism can kind of build around that. But for me, if I'm saying, well, I'm blaming men, okay, I should I just say assholes instead of men? I mean, there needs to be a new term. And that's something that I think we're also struggling with, is that we think we've got all this shit figured out. Okay. We think that we have the words for all this stuff and that we can do it. And look, if we don't have the words, we can't have the conversation in our own minds of what's going on for us and what's going on for society in general. Okay. And so that is a very real problem that people are not paying attention to, is that we don't have the words. In fact, I'm going to lay a couple of terms on people that I want you to look into. Okay. One is emotional labor. Go ahead. In fact, I'll even give you have my holy blessing to go to Google. Okay. Because I want to make sure you are getting the best fucking research on this. Okay. Most people have probably never heard of this term of emotional labor. I want you to read about it. I want you to find out about it. And then I want to see if you want to take a selfie of yourself where your eyes suddenly go, holy fuck, this is what people are dealing with. I want to see that. Another one, and this is one that's going to rub people kind of the wrong way. Emotional labor sounds kind of harmless enough, but read about it. The other one is compulsory heterosexuality. Okay. I want you to read about that. And then see what happens. Once you have terms for these things, it is amazing how the conversation will change in your mind about how you perceive what's going on in society and what's going on for yourself.
Yeah, that second one's a doozy. I mean, it's just a fact. And we're all kind of laid with the shit deal, in that we were raised in the society. We didn't get to choose the shape and color and aspects of the society that we're born into. Mm-hmm. We didn't have any decision in, the kind of biases that are presented to us as children and that we accept unconsciously. Right.
Sure. I mean, and understand that all of this has been, yeah, absolutely. And all of this has been going on forever. I mean, consider the word wife. Now, the word wife to us today, it means what it means, and it's kind of its own thing. But when you get into the etymology of the word, when you get into where it all comes from, the people that originally came up with the word wife, that had some very specific meanings.
Yeah.
That meant that a woman was property. Literally, it came from the word property.
Right.
Okay,
And I think where a lot of people get upset is that, they feel the burden is placed on them to change things. And that's absolutely true. And people go, like, why does my generation, why do I have to be the one that changed when all these people behind me, got on, quote unquote, just fine and came out okay. But, if we're not going to be the ones to change it, who is? I think personally, it's irresponsible for us to keep kicking the can down the road and expecting the next generation to do something about this.
Oh, that's a whole other can of, and that's a big thing in libertarianism as well. The idea of having children to be the next generation of activists. Like,
right.
How dare you?
Right.
How dare you tell your kid what they need to do or what they need to be? And how dare you have a child for that purpose? That's outrageous. If you want freedom, you got to do that. You know, and that's one of those. That's one of many things.
Right. That should be a big thing for libertarians, because it's all about personal responsibility.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we got to wrap this baby up. So, and I don't mean a baby that some libertarian just had. We got to put this to bed. How many other? Oh boy, I'm just using all the terms now. But Daniel, that was a very, very powerful point to bring up. And Robin, I'm glad you joined in on it. I hope there's some clarity on how I felt about things, and certainly this is a conversation that we can pick up next month. On a live Hangout Q&A, I would be happy to do that. And if people want to come together and bring their resources and, bring their best arguments and whatever else, here is the open invitation. I am more than happy to talk about this stuff. And it's these are the deep things that need to get worked out. This is not the economic and the political. This is the real shit. This is the shit that is in people's hearts and heads. So, anyway, okay. So Daniel, thank you so much. Robin, thank you so much, man. It was great talking with both of you, and I really appreciate the perspectives brought up. And I will wrap this up. And of course, more content to come out throughout August for Sovryn Tech. And you got questions about this too. If you just want me to talk about it, send it in for the Wednesday Q&A, and I can talk about it on the Wednesday Q&A. So that's it for this month for August with our live Hangout Q&A. I will see all of you on the other side.